97.71%. I mean, just take a second to let that number sink in. In the world of geopolitics and referendums, you almost never see a mandate that unified, that decisive. That massive percentage represents the overwhelming number of voters in Bougainville who, back in December 2019, cast their ballot for independence from Papua New Guinea. It's an undeniable mandate. But how does a region actually go from a vote on a piece of paper to a fully functioning, legally recognized independent nation without sparking total chaos? Well, that is the core tension we're looking at today. Welcome to this explainer, everyone. Today, we're unpacking a document from August 2026. It's legally dense, but honestly, it's absolutely fascinating. It's called the Melanesian Framework, and it details the agreed pathway forward between the autonomous Bougainville government and the government of Papua New Guinea. Let's break down exactly how this historic transition is mapped out to happen. All right, let's quickly check our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the 2019 referendum itself, then look at who actually has the final say, break down the phased transition pathway, ask if this process is actually easy, see how it reassures Papua New Guinea, and finally, touch on the enduring relationship waiting at the end of the road. Okay, Section 1, the Bougainville Independence Referendum and the massive mandate it created. So to really grasp the weight of this framework, we've got to rewind a bit to the 2001 Bougainville Peace Agreement. That agreement basically set the stage for a constitutionally guaranteed referendum. And when that vote finally rolled around in 2019, wow, an astonishing 176,928 voters, yep, that's that huge 97.71% we just talked about, firmly chose independence. The framework we're looking at officially recognizes this massive outcome as a totally legitimate expression of the people's democratic will. Really, it's the anchor for everything else we're going to talk about. Right, moving on to Section 2. Who has the final say? Let's look at the constitutional reality. Now, this is probably the single most critical question of this whole explainer. Will the Papua New Guinea National Parliament actually vote to decide on Bougainville's independence? I mean, does Bougainville just get to declare independence because of the referendum, or does PNG have to formally vote and approve it? Well, what's really interesting is how completely explicit the framework is about this. It confirms, right there in the preamble, that the PNG National Parliament is the ultimate gatekeeper. So that massive 2019 vote, it's a powerful mandate for sure, but it doesn't automatically trigger independence. It requires parliamentary approval. In fact, this entire Melanesian framework is essentially designed to be handed over to the national parliament, right alongside the referendum results, to help facilitate that final yes vote. So, if Parliament does agree, how does the PNG government actually prepare the pathway for this to happen? That brings us to Section 3, a phased transition pathway. Building the bridge. The framework brilliantly avoids treating independence like a simple on-off switch. Because let's face it, just flipping a switch usually leads to total geopolitical chaos. Instead, it builds a literal bridge. It sets up this highly structured transitional phase called self-government. During this time, both governments actually share management. Bougainville takes on more and more responsibility, but it's done through cooperative, flexible arrangements with Papua New Guinea to build capacity and confidence. To make that bridge work, the framework demystifies some heavy legal jargon by defining two very specific types of powers. First, you've got Section 290 powers. These are basically the existing autonomy functions, and the goal is an accelerated transfer of these residual powers over to Bougainville. But then you have the Section 289 powers. These are the heavy hitters, the actual sovereign powers. And during this transition, these won't just be blindly handed over overnight. They're going to be progressively shared, delegated, and jointly managed. And you can see how this creates a really clear timeline. It's not a sudden break at all. We move legally from the current phase of autonomy right into transitional self-government, where those 289 and 290 powers are actively shared, and then finally into full independence. It's a sequenced, mutually agreed transition that guarantees everything stays legally sound. Which naturally leads us to wonder, Section 4. Is the pathway easy? Welcome to the Readiness Marathon. So, does this framework promise a totally easy overnight stroll into independence? Absolutely not. It is definitely not a sprint. It's a rigorous marathon, and it all hinges on this crucial concept called readiness. The framework makes it super clear that readiness is a jointly determined assessment, meaning before any new sovereign power is transferred, both the PNG government and the Bougainville government have to sit down and mutually agree that Bougainville is fully capable of handling it peacefully. Unilateral moves, completely off the table. And just look at these readiness indicators. This isn't just a vibe check. Bougainville literally has to scientifically prove its competence across the board. Do they have the institutional capacity to actually govern? Are their laws and policies ready? What about fiscal sustainability? Like, can they actually fund themselves through their own taxes? And absolutely crucial, can they guarantee service continuity and public welfare? They have to prove they can protect their citizens and keep essential services running before they get the keys to those sovereign powers. Now, keeping those strict criteria in mind, let's look at the other side of the equation. Section 5, reassuring Papua New Guinea, the substance of the deal. So, is there really enough substance in this framework to convince PNG to comfortably release Bougainville into achieving its self-determination? Yes, there is immense substance here. The framework completely protects PNG by replacing the terrifying geopolitical threat of a unilateral declaration, which, usually means sudden disruption and chaotic separation, with a totally different approach. It offers PNG a process that is phased, orderly, super predictable, and fully managed together. The real kicker for PNG is this idea of constitutional and legal integrity. This is a huge reassurance. It guarantees that every single step of this uncoupling happens strictly within the bounds of Papua New Guinea's own national laws. Right up until the final moment of independence, everything is governed by the PNG Constitution. No legal vacuums are created, and no third-party rights are suddenly voided. It is an incredibly safe, risk-managed off-ramp.
Finally, the framework looks past the separation itself to secure the future. Section 6, an enduring Melanesian relationship beyond independence.
What's beautiful here is how it redefines what independence actually means for their neighborhood. It heavily relies on this wonderful Melanesian concept called wakbang. Basically, it's an expression of working together with deep cooperation and mutual respect. It ensures that Bougainville isn't just packing up and burning the house down on the way out. Instead, they're transforming their relationship through profound shared respect for their deep historical and cultural ties.
And the ultimate goal of all this hard work and shared management? It culminates in a treaty of friendship. Once Bougainville crosses that finish line to full, internationally recognized independence, this treaty becomes the bedrock of their new reality. Two sovereign countries living side by side, cooperating on shared interests as close friends.
Which leaves us with a truly fascinating thought to end on. In a world where independence movements almost always seem to lead to bitter conflict or decades of legal limbo, could this meticulous, step-by-step, culturally grounded Melanesian framework be the new global blueprint for peaceful decolonization? It is a stunning piece of diplomatic architecture, and honestly, watching how it unfolds is going to be a massive lesson for the entire world. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.